Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment of our show brought to you by Calhoun's. If you're getting together this week or next week, there's a big reason to get together. I can't tell you why, but it's a big game. I'm not allowed to tell you what the big game is, but you know there's a big game coming up. If you're getting people together and you don't want to do the cooking, then go to Calhoun's and get a Calhoun's party platter, boneless wings platter, wet wings platter, naked wings platter, ribs, chicken tenders, any of those platters you might want. They do the cooking. You've got an easier job of cleaning. There's nothing better than Calhoun's. Take home their party platter. All right. I want to welcome in the next member of our panel, Bob Hodge. Bob, thanks for joining us.
Glad to be here.
Now shut up. We're going to go to Josh Ward, and we're talking recruit. We all have to shut up for Josh. 6 names that you wanted to tackle. 4 that could be coming to Tennessee. 2 that are committed to Tennessee that might be looking elsewhere. Let's run through 6 names for folks to watch as we head into signing day, starting with the folks who could be coming in.
Yeah, LaBryan Ray, he's the big boy on the board, and you see that first school listed with him, Alabama. That is the team to beat. LaBryan Ray is a highly touted defensive end, visited Florida this weekend, but I think it comes down to Alabama and Tennessee. Tennessee's trying to pull off the upset.
And for the record, you got the position, obviously, but out to the right, that's the number of star rankings by Rivals and then also by 24/7.
Yes.
So that's what you got. So he's 4 in both, 4-star in both. Elijah Conliffe.
Yeah, Florida and Tennessee probably the battle there. He took a visit to Louisville this weekend, so let's see. But Elijah Conliffe is a defensive tackle from Hampton, Virginia. Big-time prospect, and if you can land a 4-star defensive tackle, you always need depth at that position. He really liked Alabama at one time, but does Alabama have room for him? That ended up being a question. So probably Tennessee, Florida for Conliffe.
Aaron Sterling.
I think it's going to be South Carolina. Tennessee has continued to recruit him, so he's worth monitoring at least, and you see the other schools that he visited as well. But Aaron Sterling, a former Bama commit, I think South Carolina is the ultimate destination for Aaron Sterling.
All right, and then lastly, Jordan Pouncey.
Visited Tennessee this weekend, the one uncommitted prospect to come in, a former Notre Dame commit, solid prospect, and Tennessee needs help at wide receiver. And some names that we're going to get to will help further explain the continued push for Jordan Pouncey, because Tennessee also took a commitment from Josh Palmer, a Fort Lauderdale wide receiver. But Texas probably the school to beat, I'd say, for Jordan Pouncey.
Okay, so of those 4, you're feeling good about?
I would probably feel the best about Conliffe. That's kind of gone maybe back and forth. I think Tennessee and Florida will both tell you they feel pretty good.
All right. So let's flip it to the folks who could be going, and this gets back to the wide receivers you were just mentioning. Guys who are committed to Tennessee but are looking elsewhere.
Yeah, Jacquez Jones, what happens with him? Clearwater, Florida wide receiver, checking out Central Florida this weekend. With Jacquez Jones looking at Central Florida, that makes sense to continue to pursue Jordan Pouncey. And then Jordan Murphy, I put him on the list just because that's one that fans have been watching this week. What happens? He didn't take that trip to Ole Miss, so you should feel great about Jordan Murphy. Still has some reported academic work to get done, so that's something to monitor. But in terms of which school he plans to attend, that school is Tennessee. So I think Tennessee's staff has done a really good job with the guys that are committed that looked elsewhere, holding on to those players.
Okay, very good. And you have a radio show, tremendous job for us leading up to signing day. You have a radio program on the sports radio WNML.
Yes, Saturdays 10 to 11 in the morning, and this upcoming Saturday will be a full recap of signing day.
Excellent. Let's take a look at the recruiting rankings from the 4 major services. Tennessee right now 10th according to Rivals and ESPN. They are 11th according to Scout. They are 13th according to 24/7. To tell you about recruiting rankings, Rival says they currently don't have a 5-star recruit. ESPN says they have the #1 player in America. So these things go all over the place. Your thoughts, though? Let's say you have 1 5-star or 0 5-stars. That's where you are. According to Rivals, 9 4-stars and 18 3-stars. Is this class good enough on paper, Bob Hodge? Because a lot of people are fretting over it.
You know, the obvious caveat of who knows for 4 years. But I'm going to say, A, it's good enough on paper. B, I would like to have seen them break up the positions a little bit more. I look at who they're recruiting and how many numbers they have at certain positions more than I do the stars, because it seems like Tennessee has done, during the Butch Jones era, very well with 3-star guys. I would like to see a few more offensive linemen here and there. I would like to see, I think sometimes they get a little bit too heavy in the defensive backfield. But the point is, yeah, I think on paper this looks like a good class. I mean, it's what, at worst 13th in the country according to everybody who ranks them. Yeah. And I've read something just this week that, okay, can we improve on our crummy recruiting class? And I don't see where that comes from. But yes, on paper, I think it looks good.
They are ranked. I think you've got Alabama, Georgia, LSU, Texas A&M, and Auburn in the SEC are ahead of them. But again, when you're talking about, oh my God, we're behind Auburn, you're 10th, they're 9th. I mean, let's calm down. That's
Yes.
one guy who tears a knee up and it changes everything, or one guy who transfers out, which Tennessee's aware of. Mike and Mike down there. We've got a much better Mike and Mike in this town right there. They're right here.
I like the class, but Bob, I think they need more DBs because the way Butch Jones uses all these defensive players on special teams, and some would say, John Pennington and myself, that's a good way to get good guys hurt. But because they play these DBs and linebackers on special teams so much, and really not the wide receivers, I think too many wide receivers. In fact, I think Tyler Bird that's a whole nother conversation, should go to defensive back. But
Is the class good enough?
I think the class is good enough, yeah. I think
Okay.
so, Mike.
I think it probably is. I mean, based on what you can project. And to me, if you look at their 10th and 13th, that's the range. There's not hardly any difference between 10th and 13th. So,
Yeah, and the question is, are you catching up with Alabama, Clemson, and Ohio State? And the answer is no. But nobody else in the country is either. That's a tough. I'm not saying that's not the goal. Obviously, that is the goal. But if that's the standard, then you're going to be mad at 125 other schools because there's only those 3 that are really owning it the way they own it year in and year out.
it seems to be there's some concern that they didn't get the best players in
There
Tennessee
you go.
other than Trey Smith.
And lost several of them to Clemson.
Yeah.
That's, to me, that's the biggest knock on this class because even if you just get T. Higgins over here, that number looks a whole lot better. Your ranking is higher. People are a lot calmer. But the fact that you lost a couple of guys in Knoxville, another couple of guys in Tennessee, that would be the drawback to the class. But I don't think it's a disaster. We'll look 3 stars, 4 stars, 5 stars later in the show of last year's contributors on the team. What were they? So we'll see. How bad are 3 stars? How great are 5 stars? We'll show you. Next, though, we are going to talk about Josh Dobbs, Cam Sutton. Had themselves got some good work in at the Senior Bowl, some good response from most of the scouts and coaches down there. We've still got more to come on Tennessee basketball. They play Bruce Pearl round 5. Todd Helton is back in town. Tons to come. Going back on the Sports Source.